Like I said in a previous video, Realme GT 5G has been my daily driver, replacing my Samsung Galaxy Note 9 that served me for almost 3 years. So after spending some time with this year's flagship killer, I found that the Realme GT 5G is a great phone, but there are a few things I've found lacking, particularly from the perspective of a Samsung flagship user. To all the subscribers, welcome back and thanks for stopping by once again. And if you're new here, we make tech videos of all kinds, so feel free to drop a sub to get notified of new content. First and foremost is the size and design. Realme GT has a special yellow color that's a bit thicker than the black one that I have here, and sports a leather backing instead of glass. If you happen to be shopping for either black or silver, get ready to buy a case as this phone will slide away from most surfaces. I do appreciate the size of the GT, which is 6.43 inch diagonally. It's compact and easier to manage than most bigger phones out right now. But the screen size appears smaller when compared with the Galaxy Note 9 despite having the same 6.4 inches size. The GT basically felt cramped when reading text as well as when watching videos, and partly the reason for that is the taller aspect ratio. Furthermore, it took me a few weeks to get used to the maximum brightness of this Super AMOLED display. At 500 nits max, the display is readable enough under the sun, but it's not a comfortable viewing experience. But indoors, the GT performs just fine. I also found the dual ambient sensor to be responsive to ambient light, adjusting the brightness level almost instantly. As for the 120Hz refresh rate, you can use 120Hz all the way or adaptive 120, wherein the display switches back to 60 in apps that it's less likely to be useful, like Google Keep. I noticed that the refresh sometimes switches back to 60 when it recognizes a video in the foreground in an app like Facebook, which is pretty neat and should save a bit of battery, but I didn't notice significant battery saving between 120 and adaptive mode. However, switching to 60Hz can extend your screen time up to an hour, which is something I always do whenever I'm out and about, as the 4500 mAh simply can't keep up when you have all the best features turned on. I think Realme has to do a better job in implementing its adaptive refresh, as the GT stays at 120 even when you're not interacting with the screen, and that itself drains the battery. With my normal use that includes browsing and video streaming, I average 4 to 4.5 hours of screen time. With gaming on the side, that number goes down to 3 hours. These are with always on display turned off, by the way, and those numbers aren't enough to make a phone last an entire day. However, the GT comes equipped with a 65-watt charger that tops up the phone in as quick as 35 minutes. My fastest record, however, is 37 minutes from empty to full, but that charging time just gets shorter if you are to top up with a bit of battery left, like how I only need less than 30 minutes to charge it from 20%. So despite the GT having below average battery life, the 65-watt charger does make up for it. You just need to change your habit if you're a power user, meaning you will need to charge at least once a day. But if you're always on the go, you'll have to wait for other brands to release a 65-watt power bank that's compatible with the GT. And if you happen to use an unsupported power bank, the most you can do is 10 watts because of compatibility complications. Now let's talk performance. Realme GT is the cheapest way to owning a Snapdragon 888 phone today. And much like most Snapdragon 888 phones, even this phone heats up when pushed to its limits. It also gets warm fast even in light use, but nothing very concerning, as the chip does throttle when the phone starts to overheat. The haptic feedback isn't the best on this one. I turned it off simply because it's annoying to use. This phone also has a toggle called GT mode, which unleashes the maximum performance of the device, but I didn't notice any significant improvements in gaming nor tactility, so there you go. Pairing the top-end chip from Qualcomm is Realme UI 2.0. The GT is slated to be one of the first Realme devices to receive Realme UI 3.0 that's based on Android 12 already, but there's no word yet when the stable version will be released, as the beta has just started in China. As for Realme UI 2.0, I like its clean and simple user interface. It's basically Oppo's Color OS, but based on my experience with previous Oppo phones, Color OS is one of the optimized Android software out there. It's not aggressive in killing background apps, it's customizable, and its design is now cleaner and simpler than ever. It's not a perfect Android OS, I still see some frame drops and transition animations, but it's not as bad as the ones that I experienced with Xiaomi devices. I also like Realme UI's ability to generate wallpapers based on a picture, as well as the option to change the shapes and colors of quick settings. The only bug that I noticed is that YouTube videos would sometimes resume automatically after hitting pause. If there's one thing I wish Realme UI would copy from Samsung UI, it's the ability to connect and control the phone to Windows PC. Although it's sad to see the microSD slot go, I'm glad that the headphone jack is still here. Realme admitted that the camera is not one of the highlights of the GT, and based on my test, that's mostly true. The 64-megapixel main camera struggles to keep proper HDR of close-up subjects, with most shots ending up underexposed. AI mode is basically scene detection, but it bumps the saturation to weird levels that I turned the feature off after a few photos. The 8-megapixel ultra-wide seems to be a bit more reliable when it comes to consistency, at the very least. Realme GT's camera may not be the most reliable shooter that I've used, but the AI mode for videos at night is something I really find useful. In videos, the resolution is capped at 1080p but makes the video a lot brighter, and it works pretty well. There's also night mode selfie for crisper selfies in low light, as well as selfie video bokeh if you want that cinematic-like effect that's also found on the new iPhone 13. Video recording goes up to 4K at 60 with stabilization, but the viewfinder crops in really close, almost like a telephoto zoom, so watch out for that. One quirk that I found is that the native camera app doesn't support a QR code reader, so I had to download Google Lens for that, which is just an extra step I had to take since my Samsung Note 9 has the feature built in. Overall, these cameras are average at best. They're nice to have when you need them, but I would still take my Note 9 simply because it's more reliable in quality. So all in all, nothing can take away the value proposition of the Realme GT 5G. But in exchange for having the best chipset in the cheapest way possible, you have to deal with average cameras, below average battery life, and a dim but acceptable display. Now, Realme GT isn't officially sold by Realme Philippines, but several official third-party retailers like Simpson Store on Lazada sell the GT at around 25,000 pesos for the base model with 8GB RAM and 128GB storage. In fact, this unit that I have here came from that store, and it's even the global model. All links in the description below if you wish to purchase this phone. If you're not willing to purchase from a store other than Realme, then your best alternative is the Realme GT Master Edition, which has a slightly smaller battery but the same charging speed and significantly slower Snapdragon 778G, but more than enough for day-to-day needs and medium gaming. But if you're willing to go outside Realme's so-called ecosystem, then the Poco F3 with a slightly bigger and brighter screen and Snapdragon 870 is also a decent alternative, provided you don't mind dealing with MIUI. So that's it for this one. Drop a sub or a like if you feel supporting the channel, and until the next one, stay safe.